I knew disaster was imminent the moment the clipboard landed in the trash with a resounding thud that brought the entire factory floor to a halt. Tyler, a cocky 25-year-old with a tech bro swagger, held up my laminated checklist as if it were a dirty napkin. He declared it was an antiquated tool from the 1950s. The crew offered a forced laugh, not because they found his joke funny, but because they understood that you either play along with a manager who evaluates you or you risk being fired. He then discarded the checklist into the bin, acting as though his actions were a cure for a major disease. Clapping his hands like a hyperactive kindergarten teacher, he announced, "Let's get lean, people." I was certain he believed that trendy jargon could solve complex mechanical issues. I didn't say a word. I simply stared at the bin where my checklist lay among discarded food containers. Something inside me changed. I've dealt with bad managers before and outlasted 5 of them. But this one was different. He came with shiny presentations and a girlfriend who filmed our loading dock as if it were a celebrity music festival. Tyler's so-called innovation plan was revealed that afternoon. He abolished physical checklists and daily equipment inspections in their place. He introduced an app that was barely functional on most phones and sent alerts to a Slack channel that no one was following. He spent 20 minutes talking about how cloud-integrated process governance would eliminate human error, while a veteran maintenance worker had to ask him repeatedly how to even access the calendar on the app by Thursday. A critical boiler hadn't been inspected in 4 days. A maintenance schedule was missed, and a key piece of equipment sounded like it was struggling to breathe. I raised my concerns, both verbally and in writing. Tyler dismissed me, saying, "Relax, Diane. This isn't 1995. We've got predictive analytics now." He then took a selfie in the break room with a ring light, captioning it with #leadership vibes. He stripped me of my authority and told HRI was having trouble adapting to change, all because I had the audacity to suggest we monitor the machines that generated millions of dollars a day. So I adapted. I began logging every single skipped inspection, every anomaly, and every ignored alert. I took photos, dated them, and saved everything to my own private cloud folder, which I named in case of fire. I smiled through every meeting where Tyler used corporate buzzwords like vertical alignment and synergy in motion, knowing the entire system was on the verge of collapse. There's a difference between change and sabotage dressed in trendy clothes, and the plant was about to demonstrate that difference. The first system Tyler eliminated was the morning maintenance walkthrough, a routine we called the coffee and listen tours. This was where you'd walk the floor and listen for the subtle sounds that signal an issue. These are things a dashboard can't tell you, like the vibration of a floor when a belt is failing. But Tyler, announcing his change as a revelation, said, "If it ain't broke, why waste time checking it?" This from a man who once tried to reboot a forklift by pressing the horn. He also got rid of my shift logs, claiming nobody reads PDFs in 2025, and replaced them with a Slack thread where people were supposed to journal their feelings about managing heavy machinery for a few days. I questioned whether I was the problem, but soon the signs of trouble started to mount. A new employee misloaded pallets because Tyler told her to skip a verification step. A maintenance worker forgot to drain a compressor tank. A sensor started malfunctioning. One morning, the exhaust fan for the boiler room was shut off to save power. When I pointed out its purpose, Tyler responded, "We've got smart thermostats. Now, Diane, chill?" Instead of chilling, I started documenting everything. I used my personal tablet to log every unusual vibration, every pressure gauge fluctuation, and every strange smell. I took pictures and even drew diagrams. My folder was now titled Eisenhower's Revenge, not as a joke, but as a form of protection. The rest of the crew started to notice too. Instructions from Tyler were inconsistent, and when an error occurred, he blamed the team. People began to quietly express their concerns, whispering about missed tasks and disconnected fans. I remained silent because I knew that under a manager like Tyler, you become the problem if you speak up too much. HR called me in, a young representative with a rehearsed corporate empathy. She told me Tyler was concerned about my resistance to workflow modernization and said I was undermining team cohesion. I signed the form without a fight and went home to continue documenting. He thought I was fading away, that I was harmless, and that a checklist was just paper. He didn't realize he had discarded the very system that kept the plant running smoothly, and that I was quietly building an even stronger one. The first major warning wasn't a loud noise, but a subtle hum. It was a high-pitched, inconsistent sound that told me something was wrong with a coolant pipe. In the past, I would have flagged it for maintenance and it would have been fixed immediately. But now, it wasn't on Tyler's checklist. I took 3 photos, logged them with a precise time and date, and even sent a friendly message on Slack to a maintenance worker to check it out. Nothing happened. Shortly after, a hydraulic press on another line jammed because a new hire forgot a critical step that was part of the old daily walkthrough. I went to find Tyler, but he was on the loading dock, giving his influencer girlfriend a tour for her vlog. He dismissed my concerns, saying he had already addressed the bottlenecks. His girlfriend, laughing, called me a plant mom for machines. I didn't yell or scream. Instead, I went back to my station and meticulously documented both issues, cross-referencing them with service dates, and saved them in a new folder called Pre-Failure Evidence Reviewed Never. Over the next few days, the plant became a minefield of ignored warnings. Gears began to grind, an emergency stoplight flickered, and a temperature alert on a solvent tank was ignored. My gentle reminders to the team were met with shrugs or Tyler's assurance that it's fine. Then HR called me in again. The young representative told me Tyler was concerned I was struggling to adapt. I nodded, signed the form, and added the HR visit to my log. I wasn't resisting change. I was meticulously documenting the inevitable. Failure on a Friday morning. I heard a sound I hadn't heard in years, a rhythmic clicking from the main compressor's relay board, a sound that signals a catastrophic failure. This wasn't a sound that showed up on a dashboard. It was a coordination failure that could lead to a shutdown or an explosion. I didn't use Slack or the daily app. I wrote a formal incident report requesting a preventative shutdown, CC'd Tyler Safety, and a regional supervisor who owed me a favor. I attached photos and a sound recording of the click-in dot at 9:05 a.m. Tyler replied, dismissing my concerns and saying we couldn't pause a high-volume cycle because someone's nervous. I printed out every single document, my report, his reply, the photos, and the audio recordings. I put them in a red folder labeled when, not if it happens. Then I did the hardest thing. Nothing. I sat on the loading dock, eating my lunch, feeling the off-kilter rhythm of the plant. I told myself, one more day, one more log, one more warning. Monday, 10:17 a.m. It began with a horrific screech, followed by flashing red lights and blaring sirens. A conveyor belt jammed, causing a cascade of failures. An emergency shutdown triggered, and the entire plant fell silent. The floor supervisor, a man Tyler had promoted for being vibe forward, ran around in a panic, yelling, "Just reset it." I stood still, holding my old clipboard, the one they called obsolete. In my bag was the red folder with all the proof. From across the plant, the CFO's voice boomed over the intercom, demanding to know what happened. Tyler was nowhere to be found. I was calm, like a person in the eye of a storm they saw coming. A mechanic asked me what happened, and I calmly explained the relay failure, the pressure tank overload, and the ultimate cause, the plant choking on its own silence. He looked at me, then at the chaos, and back at me again, realizing I had predicted it all. I didn't feel angry or vindicated. I felt still like a machine that had been running too hot and was finally allowed to power down. I had already gathered my evidence because, unlike Tyler's system, mine was built to survive this. The CEO, a man who hadn't been on the floor in 6 years, appeared like a storm cloud in a soup. He walked through the wreckage with the CFO trailing behind him. Tyler, flustered and sweaty, appeared and began to explain his digital workflow. The CEO didn't respond. He walked slowly across the floor and stopped at the trash can near the break room. He reached in and pulled out my clipboard, the one Tyler had discarded 23 days earlier. He held it up, a relic with duct-taped corners and oil smudges. "This checklist," the CEO said, his voice sharp, "ran this floor for 6,580 days, 0 shutdowns, 0 failures." He asked Tyler to explain why it was in the trash. Tyler stammered about modernization, but the CEO kept asking, "Did it work?" The room fell silent. He then turned to me. "You kept a backup, you?" I simply nodded. He handed me the clipboard and told me to finish my report. Then, with a quiet but firm tone, he told Tyler to come to his office. The power dynamic shifted instantly. About an hour later, the CEO found me in the hallway. "I've seen the logs," he said. "All of them. The photos, the printed messages, the audio recordings." He laid out my report from Friday